Hey everyone, I'm Akshay, an ecologist in training from India. I'm currently here in the south of France to conduct my research on vultures in the French Alps. Along with Professor Olivier Duriez at the Center for Evolutionary and Functional Ecology at Montpellier, I will be studying the foraging behavior and ecology of vultures in the French Alps. Dr. Duriez has been involved with vulture conservation and research in Europe for over a decade now and is a global authority on the movement ecology of these highly threatened raptors. Let's now hear from Dr. Duriez himself on what species of vultures we find in France, how they suffered declines in the past, and how they've made a phenomenal comeback in the recent years.
We have four species of vultures in France. The most common one is the griffon vulture. The cinereous vulture is rarer, bearded vulture, and the Egyptian vulture. Actually, the species were almost disappeared. Only 10 pairs of griffon vultures were remaining in the Pyrenees in the 60s. A few pairs of bearded vulture in Corsica and the Pyrenees, and black vulture had completely disappeared, and Egyptian vulture was still a remnant population in the Pyrenees and in the southeast of France. But thanks to the reintroduction program first, there was a return of vulture species, first protection of the species in the Pyrenees, and then reintroduction in the Massif Central, in the coast, highly successful. It was one of the first reintroduction like that in the world. And now we have in France in total 1,200 pairs more or less in the Pyrenees, and almost the same number combining the Alps and the coast now. So it's a highly expanding population for the griffon vulture.
Thanks, Olivier. Now, before we go on to discussing about the hypothesis of our study and the fieldwork involved to gather our data, let's just go back to Olivier to find out a little more about the stars of our study, which is the Eurasian griffon vulture and the cinereous vulture. What are the differences in their foraging ecologies, where they roost, and other differences that may be relevant to the questions we're asking?
The two species, griffon vulture and cinereous vulture, are complementary species, and they don't have the same ecology, both for feeding and for nesting and roosting. If you took first the feeding, the species are mostly, the griffon vulture is arriving first at the feeding event, and they are mostly feeding on all the soft organs and the muscles and the viscera. And after they have cleaned part of the meat of the carcass, then the cinereous vulture arrives and is feeding on the tough parts. It has a larger bill, a stronger bill, and it's more used to eat the skin, the tendons, all of the tough parts of the ears of the animals and so on. And also the griffon vulture are really specialized in big mammals. It's mostly ungulates, they love ungulates, and each carcass can be shared by many vultures. While the cinereous is more opportunistic. It can go to these big mammals to feed this tough parasite, but also it's more opportunistic and can go on small carrions like dead dog, hedgehog, mammals, rabbits. They love rabbits, for instance. So they are more opportunistic, actually.
Alright, so now that you've been introduced to the characters of our story, here's the broad setting in which it plays out. In France, the French government has rolled out the SFS program, or the Supplementary Feeding Station program, which is a method to ensure that vultures have an availability of carcasses year round. In short, every farmer that signs up to this program has a specific site on his property where he goes and dumps every dead animal that he finds in his farm. Now, as per French law, an animal that dies of natural causes while grazing out on the land cannot be sold for human consumption and therefore must be disposed of. Initially, before vultures were considered a disposal service, the farmer had to pay for an additional chemical disposal of the carcasses. However, since the law has been changed to accommodate vultures, the farmer just has to go to a specific site at his property and go and drop the carcass, and the vultures will take care of the rest. Now, given this situation, the questions that we asked during my internship were twofold. The first was that within a single species of vulture, which is the Eurasian griffon vulture, how reliant were the populations on supplementary feeding stations, and how did this reliance differ between two mountain ranges, specifically between the French Alps and the Caucasus. The French Alps are a considerably more forested landscape with significantly more wild prey in terms of deer, which are also being hunted by a greater number of wolves. In contrast, the causes are predominantly dominated by large farms with a large number of livestock. Therefore, we predicted that Eurasian griffins in the causes would rely more on supplementary feeding stations where the farmers are finding livestock on their field and disposing them at these feeding stations. And they would rely more on these feeding stations in the causes, in contrast to the Alps where deer can be hunted by the wolves at any point in the Alps and not really at specific sites. During my stay here in France, we will be focusing on tagging as many Eurasian griffin and cinereous vultures as we possibly can in the French mountain range of the Alps, which is on the border between France, Switzerland, and Italy. But before we tag vultures for my project, I first need to learn the basics of how we capture, tag, and release vultures safely back into the wild. To do this, I will be accompanying Olivier and our field assistant Sam to the Pyrenees Mountains.
D'accord. Ok. Eh ben on fait au mieux. Merci beaucoup.
Hey everyone, so we're halfway till our field site in the Pyrenees, and we just stopped for a cup of coffee, and we just heard from our field assistants that they've caught 23 birds in a cage at the field site. So we're just going to drive down there real fast.
Storm clouds are building above the timberline. The lightning's flashing across the mountainside. Thunder's rolling down the canyons of his mind. Somewhere beyond the great divide. The bugle of the bull elk echoes through the pines. The north wind moans her lonesome lullaby. He hungers for the freedom of an eagle as she glides somewhere beyond the great divide. He's heard the call of the wild. He's heard the call of the wild. The mountains calling to him like a mother calls her child. He's heard the call of the wild.
C'est très facile. Ils sont. Comment c'est parce qu'on est très adroit. C'est bon?
Est-ce qu'on peut libérer le passage? Qu'est-ce que je fais? Je te le prends et je te le mets?
Ouais.
Je le prends et je te... Ok, c'est bon, tu peux lâcher. Ok. Elle est où là? C'est qui pique?
This year in particularly, people watched a lot of dying vultures with avian flu, so they want to know if the population, what is the prevalence of the population in the Vercors and Pays Basque. And they want to know if the vulture excrete a lot of this or not. So we took a lot of samples yesterday, like new feather, growing feather, and buccal samples and blood samples to know if how much they excrete and how many of them have the avian flu.
Comme tu veux. C'est pour être plus sur du respi quoi. Parce que bon, la trachée clairement c'est mort mais.
Ouh, ça chatouille.
Les autres ils sont toujours au-dessus quoi.
Bah ouais.
Ils lâchent rien.
Surtout qu'il va boire.
Ouais, quand même moins.
Ouais, tout à l'heure, le mec il descendait un peu.
How do you get the data on the vultures and where do you put the device?
So this device is a device from the brand Ornitella. It weighs 50 grams. It has 2 solar panels, so it charges automatically with the sun power, and it's set on the back of the birds, and we use a special type of harness called the leg loop harness. So each loop here will go around the leg. So the tag is on the back of the bird, but if you have the 2 legs here, it will go around each leg like this and be maintained just by the legs. And the advantage of this type of mount compared to the regular backpack is that you have, because it's only tightened by the 2 legs, if one breaks, then the tag will fall from the other leg and the bird cannot be entangled with the harness. That sometimes happens with a backpack harness. So it's safer for the bird and also much faster to deploy on the bird for handling the bird. And this tag is sending its data, is collecting GPS data, so GPS position. We can program it to have as regular basis 1 fix per hour, but if it's fully charged, we can increase the sampling rate up to 1 fix per minute. And in some specific place, we designed it, we program it to collect 1 fix per second. That really helps to understand really the flying behavior, especially in the place where there are wind farms. So we are installing this special geofence where the program changes to 1 fix per second to study how the bird will climb and then avoid or not the wind farms, the windmills. It also collects accelerometry data. And these data are very interesting because it can record the posture of the body. The accelerometer, it has 3 axes, one x-axis like this, one y-axis like this, and one z-axis like this. So if the bird is sleeping or incubating, the tag is like this, so it records one type of signature. If the bird is perched, it will change signature, and if it's moving a lot, like flapping, it will move. So we have a sinusoidal signal, and so that helps to understand the activity of the bird, and we can convert it into a special measurement called ODBA, or overall dynamic body acceleration, which is a good proxy to study energetics. So the energy spent during the daily life of the bird that are wearing this tag. Go ahead, just do it.
Are you ready?
Yeah. Yeah, go for it.
No, no, il va tout
No, no.
seul. Ah oui, hein. Tan, tararan, tan, 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 tararan, tan, 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 tan.
Oh man, I'm gonna die. Which one?
The one in the corner.
Slowly, slowly.
Oh
Take
man.
time.
Yes.
Take time.
Are you coming? Oh man. Oh, I'm bad at this.
There's the coral one.
Bro. Come, come, come. Ah. Oh. Yeah, but I'll have to jump on it. Okay. Hey.
Hold it.
Hold the head.
Yes.
Okay. Held. Where are the legs?
Yeah, there.
Am I holding both?
Yes.
Are you sure? No, I'm
Now
holding
you're
only one.
one. Take the other one.
Yeah.
Okay, now you carry him like this.
Au sol, ouais. Down. Yep.
This is weird. Thank you. Thank you.
Can you...
Yeah.
Thanks. Merci.
Voilà, et Cotton, ils la vendront 150 €.
I will open the...
La poubelle.
That's okay?
Yeah. Do I release it?
Ah, yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can.
I bet my friends are wondering where I am or if I'm still alive. They're worried over nothing, they should know I'm perfectly fine. It's just a mood I get in now and then when I need to get my head clear. I turn off my phone, get lost, get gone, and flat out disappear. Well, there ain't no telling where I'm bound, a big city or the country, a little beach town, but you won't find me 'cause I can't be found. I'm on a mission to be missing. I'll be back someday, I just don't know when. Till then I'll be a feather floating in the wind, so don't you go missing me, 'cause sometimes missing is my favorite place to be. I bet the grass is 3 feet high and the mailbox is full of bills. 100 messages I need to check and when
Et donc peut-être marquer. Peut-être qu'il y aura. Et tu vas passer les échantillons au fur et à mesure.
So here you got all the cage. You got it all just here, and this door is for vultures. So basically vultures are arriving by the hall or by this way because the door is open in the normal days. They go inside and they eat carcasses and they go back from that way. And when we want to catch them, to trap them, we close this door. So all the vultures arriving from the hall are trapped. Avec
so don't you go missing me, 'cause sometimes missing is my favorite place to be. I love those locations where nobody knows my name.
Why are you cutting the carcass? To attract birds. When they see blood, meat, or the organs, it can give them the message that other ones came to eat before, so it's safe.
To be missing, I'll be back someday, I just don't know when. Till then I'll be a feather floating in the wind, so don't you go missing me, 'cause sometimes missing is my favorite place to be.
Ah oui, ah bah oui. Ah merci. Je vais essayer de pas me casser la gueule. Merde. Eh bien, il est bien lourd. Alors, je vais lui prendre les pattes. Ok, c'est bon, merci. Ouais.
Et bagué hein, par contre le mien.
My work here in France is funded by the Chapak Lab Scholarship, which is a scholarship program by the French government for undergraduate students in India.